The Untouchable True School Sports Empire proudly presents something the boxing games are missing. Hey, what's going on? It's your boy BT, and I came here to talk some boxing with the thousands of True School Sports subscribers. Now, this is, in fact, albeit late, the aftermath of Gervonta Davis knocking out Frank Martin. It is also a couple things. It's also the first live on the channel in 3 weeks. It's been a long time. It's been such a crazy 3 weeks in the life of BT, just moving and covering fights and trying to make this boxing thing happen to the highest level. And it's also the first live of me while living here in Vegas. So it's the live of many firsts. And because I haven't been live in so long, I'm gonna make this one a long one because there's a lot of things that happened. There's a lot of things that need to be discussed. There's a lot of things that need to be talked about, from last week's fights as well as this week's upcoming fights to other stuff in the boxing world. So I hope you guys, for however long I'm here, I hope you guys comment and chime in and just make it a really fun live. And by the way, guys, if at any point, just let you guys know, I may pause every now and again in this live because I got a crazy toothache right now. So I may pause every now and then in this live if my toothache flares up with good old, Oragel. This live has been unofficially sponsored by the fine folks at Oragel. So yeah, shout out to everybody here. Make sure you smash the like button if you're watching the live now. Make sure you smash the playback if you're watching it on the playback and all that good stuff. And yeah, man, just before we get into the boxing, just wanted to kind of touch on this crazy. I'm just here in Vegas now, and see, back in South Florida, there was always gyms, there's always fighters and stuff like that. But like we would get the odd event here and there. But see, in Vegas, it don't stop. Like last week we had Tank Davis versus Frank Martin. I covered that whole fight week. This week we got Rafael Espinoza, and the guy's name is Chirino. So I'll be at that, and I'll have some content for you guys tomorrow. Tomorrow is the beginning of fight week for that fight. It's a bit of a short fight week because the fight falls on a Friday. I'll be at the press conference tomorrow, so it should be a lot of fun. But gonna be a fun live. Shout out to my guy Alex Fitzmaurice out back in South Florida. How you doing, Alex? He said, "What's good, BT? What's good, Alex? Good to see you. Hope all is well back home in South Florida." And last thing, shout out to the Florida Panthers. They got a chance to bring it home tonight and win the Stanley Cup. That's actually part of the reason why I'm live this early, because I'm not trying to go live at night, and I'm not trying to go live after they win the Stanley Cup. So that's another reason I'm live. But look, nonetheless, let's just jump right into it, and I'll get to you guys' comments later on about Gervonta Davis, because there's some things I want to discuss with good old Tank, because he's a polarizing figure in boxing. I feel like he's popular. A lot of people love him. A lot of people hate him. But one thing I think that can't be denied, if you're just being honest about Gervonta Davis and who he is the fact that he is not only one of the best fighters in boxing, but he's one of the most intelligent fighters in boxing. I really liked how he looked in this fight with Frank Martin, because, again, Frank Martin is not Shakur Stevenson. I get all that. He's not some of the opponents that people want to see Tank fight. But Frank Martin is still a top, credible, legit top 10 contender. A guy that was bringing some different things to the table that maybe Tank hasn't seen in his career, as far as, from an athleticism standpoint, from a power punching southpaw. Those are things Tank hasn't really had to deal with in the pros, right? And Frank had some success. Frank was lumping up Davis at times in the fight. He was countering, punching in between the shots. But as the fight wore on, Tank was able to make those adjustments. He was able to keep that defense nice and tight. And like he always seems to do in all these fights, he's got a way of knocking you out and setting up that big knockout shot. As Blair Cobbs once stated in one of our interviews, he's a checkmate fighter. So Frank Martin or Gervonta Davis, I think it's time for boxing fans to really start giving him more credit for his IQ. It's easy to criticize the resume. I understand the criticisms. I've been part of those criticisms. I've criticized Tank to the point where people from Gervonta Davis's team pressed me at the damn fight. So I know all the criticism. I know all the talking points. But you can only judge a man for what they do in the ring. And I just feel like to knock out Frank Martin in the fashion he did was a byproduct of his IQ, right? And just in case you forgot, what that knockout looked like, here I got you guys. Here's what it looked like if you forgot already. Yup, that's the knockout of the year. So look, man, just to kind of recap the knockout, he throws a little uppercut, and then the uppercut already had Frank Martin hurt. Like, he was ready to just go after the uppercut. He didn't know what the hell he was after the uppercut. But then Tank throws a deadly, precise, steak knife sharp, straight left hand down the middle, and that puts Frank Martin into the shadow realm. So I think Gervonta Davis has been maturing a lot in the ring and just in general. And I feel like, it's things are set up for Gervonta Davis now, these next, 4, 5, 6 fights, for him to go ahead and really take that throne as potentially the face of boxing and one of the best fighters in the sport, and definitely someone that could be remembered in history, because he can fight the guys like Devin Haney and Shakur and whomever, even people say I was dumb for asking the question, but I had to ask if it ever gets to a stage where they could meet at a catch weight, in a way fight, I still don't think is as far-fetched as people think, but that's just me. So yeah, one of the highest IQ fighters in the game today, Gervonta Davis. But shout out to my guy Alex or Andrew Coyle. He says Tank is on another level to these guys, and so far, look, I'll say he seems to have everything: the boxing skills, the defense, the counter punching. And it's not so much that he's a knockout artist. I try to tell people this: Gervonta Davis is not just a knockout artist. He's a versatile knockout artist, meaning that he's not like Deontay Wilder, where the only way he knocks you out is with his big straight right hand or one particular punch. He's got different ways of going about it. He can knock you out with the uppercut, straight left hand, the right hook, the body shot. I mean, pick your poison. Versatile knockout puncher. Gervonta Davis, versatile knockout puncher. Naya Inoue, versatile knockout puncher. Artur Beterbiev, versatile knockout puncher. That's what makes all those guys dangerous. So Frank Martin was winning, and he did get knocked out. I don't know if I was in the arena, so generally speaking, when you go to fights in person and when you watch them on TV, it's always different. I wasn't scoring it, but I don't know if Frank Martin was winning the fight. I feel like Tank, especially around like round 4 or 5, he was hitting Frank Martin with some really vicious counter punches, and I think right around that part of the fight, Frank Martin started going into survival mode. So I don't know if he was winning, but either way, it doesn't matter. You should be happy about Benavidez at 175. He's the only American in the division. Those two old Russians barely fight. I'm not talking about Benavidez. This live is not about him. So we're not going to make it about him, Pyro. This live is not about Dave Benavidez. I already made a video about Dave Benavidez. We're not going to make this about Dave Benavidez. Bro, Shakur ain't fucking with Tank. I'm not even a Tank fan, and I'm telling you, Shakur is going to get caught. Possibly. I mean, we'll see. They got to fight. I'm a firm believer in, like, you can think what you want to think. I would favor Tank, but I'm saying we could all think what we want to think, but they fight the fights for a reason. And you know what? That's a perfect segue into talking about that. One last comment. My man Andre says, how's Vegas BT? Is it worse than Florida Heat? I don't know if it's worse, but it's different. Like, I mean, it's not my first time coming to Vegas. In fact, it's like my 15th time coming to Vegas. I've been to Vegas plenty of times, but it's just dry. It's dry, and I hate dry heat. I would rather much have like humidity and because that's what I'm used to. But it's just different, But nonetheless, you guys mentioned Shakur Stevenson versus Gervonta Davis. So I wanted to talk about that. I wanted to get my thoughts on that, my updated thoughts on that, because this is a fight where I feel like, if you would have asked me like 4 years ago, if you would have said BT, let's say 2021, 2020, 2019, if you would have asked me, if you would have said pretty much from any year that I've been on YouTube talking about Shakur Stevenson to like, the from 2016 to 2021, if you would have asked me about this matchup, I would have always told you Shakur Stevenson. I've been a big Shakur Stevenson guy for years. I remember interviewing Shakur Stevenson when he was not even an Olympian. Like, I'm talking about like before he went to the Olympics. I interviewed Shakur Stevenson, and I was high on him, and I still am high on him. But seeing the last 2 years or so how Gervonta Davis has developed and these kind of things, and then seeing how Shakur Stevenson always reacts to these power punchers, whether it's Nakatilia or whether it's Edwin De Los Santos, Shakur Stevenson always seems to get on his bicycle against these kind of fighters. Now, really and truthfully speaking, I don't think Gervonta Davis has ever used all of his skills against anybody. I don't think he used it all to beat Frank Martin. I don't think he even used all of his skills to beat Pitbull Cruz. I feel like I actually do agree with Calvin Ford. Like, I do agree with Calvin Ford. When Calvin Ford says he's waiting for someone to push that button, I don't think anybody's fully been able to push the button to Gervonta Davis. Just being honest, because he's always had the eraser. Even when guys were up on him for rounds, he always had the eraser. He always had the remedy to knock these guys out. So when you talk about Shakur Stevenson versus Tank, as great of a technical fighter as Shakur Stevenson is, I think Gervonta Davis boxes just well enough. He has enough skills to close the gap and make the adjustments and find the shots that count. Because at the end of the day, you could be the master boxer all you want, and at some point you're gonna have enough oomph, enough power on your punches to keep a guy off of you. And I just think that Shakur Stevenson, I could see him in a fight like against Tank. I could see him up like 7 rounds to like 2 or 6 rounds to 3, like boxing the shit out of him to the point where it's like, damn, y'all really thought Tank was gonna beat Shakur, and then bang, the fight's over. Because that's the kind of fighter Gervonta Davis is. He's a checkmate fighter, like Blair Cobb said. He's a checkmate fighter. You make one mistake, and that's your ass. Now, Shakur Stevenson seldomly does he ever make mistakes, and that's why you give him a great chance in the fight. Shakur Stevenson got amazing balance, so he can get in and out of range. But if they fought like right now, like tomorrow or today, I would lean slightly towards Tank. I would say that fight's 55-45 Gervonta Davis, only because of the fact that Gervonta Davis, in his own way, in a different way, but in his own way, I actually believe has just as high of an IQ as Shakur Stevenson. And people may disagree with that, but that's what I think. Shout out to Hyro. He says Raheem Gonzalez realizes that amateur boxing is evil. Yeah, that's right. Shout out to Raheem Gonzalez. He didn't win the trials. He's not going to be an Olympian, so he doesn't get the chance to fulfill his dreams of being an Olympian for the USA. But Raheem Gonzalez at least gets to maybe right some wrongs, and he's going to go to the pros. So hopefully, I hope it works out for him. I think he stayed as an amateur too long, but we'll see how it goes. Shout out to you, Howard, for the super chat. My man Abu Yakub, and I probably butchered your name. He says, I have known Tank and Calvin since the amateur days, and since he's been professional, he keeps getting better and better. However, there's a Brooklyn kid named Shushu making some noise, and yeah, look, I like Shushu. Shushu's a fantastic fighter, and Shushu's a friend of the channel. He's a friend of the program. I like Shushu a lot, but Shushu's at featherweight, so Shushu has to worry about. He's not even on the radar right now. Shushu has to worry about the Espinosas and the Angelo Leos and the Bernardo Lopez's and the Ruben Villas and those kind of fighters. He's not even at 30 or 35, but I hear you. I like Shushu a lot. My man right here says the running Shakur will do is going to frustrate Tank, but he has way more skills than Shakur. I just think, like, because it gets to a point where you look at Tank, he's very good at catching and countering. Look at this fight with Frank Martin. He was doing a lot of catching and countering, and I just think Shakur Stevenson is going to be very, very selective. Believe it or not, I think the Shakur Stevenson fight could look very similar to rounds 4 through 8 of the Tank Martin fight, where you get a guy constantly circling the ring, and eventually Tank just wears him down with that mental pressure, coming close to him, keeping a tight defense, countering when he needs to counter, and when he gets one opportunity to get him out of there, he'll get him out of there. And that's what it is. My man right here makes a good observation. He says Gervonta knocked out Frank Martin with the same combination Inoue knocked out Neri, the uppercut and the straight left. Yeah. And those, I mean, we know that Gervonta is a big fan of Inoue. So it's very possible he could have watched some fights and put that in his game. Yeah, it's possible. But listen, what else we got? What else we get about Tank? So look, Shakur Stevenson and Tank. I wish in a perfect world, Shakur fights Artur Haratunian. What is it? July 7th in Newark. He beats Artur Haratunian July 7th in Newark, and then boom, at the end of the year, right here in Vegas, they make Shakur Stevenson versus Gervonta Davis. But that's not going to happen because, and this will probably be my last talking point about Tank because I still want to talk about Subriel Matias and other things in boxing. But I wanted to talk about this. I wanted to really talk about this right here because at the press conference after the fight, not just the press conference after the fight, but throughout all of fight week, we heard rumblings about Gervonta Davis fighting Vasily Lomachenko, which obviously this is a fight that should have happened years ago when they're both champions at 130. You know, Lomachenko was quite possibly the best fighter in the world at one point for a moment in time. And Gervonta Davis was a very young fighter. He was the youngest world champion in boxing at that time. And a lot of people wanted to see that fight at 130. But many other promotions, Floyd, Leonard Ellaby, at that time, they stated that, you know, they weren't in no rush. You know, Lomachenko has to fight guys like Tank and has to get as many big fights in as possible because, you know, he's older and he's more advanced in the game as to where they can take their time. So they didn't just say this for 1 year, not 2 years, but many years, like 3 years. They were saying this. This is like a 3 or 4 year thing. And time has passed by, and now we know Lomachenko is on his way out the door, and we know Gervonta Davis is now in his prime, his peak years, peak form. And now you got Bob Arum confirming the fact that they are negotiating the fight between Lomachenko and Tank, and they're targeting it for later on in the year. So what do I think about it? What does it really mean? First and foremost, I think this fight is still a very good fight. I think Lomachenko, even at his advanced age, Lomachenko was still one of the best fighters in the world in any weight class. You know, to do what he's doing at this age, you know, because remember, this is a guy that turned pro at what, featherweight? And so he's constantly undersized. He's constantly, you know, he's older and he's undersized. So you're already at a disadvantage, and he still performs at a very high level against top competition, you know? So if Tank does beat Lomachenko, it's nothing to scoff at. But because of the history, people will scoff at it. People will say, you know what? It's not impressive. He beat him when he was old. You know, it'll be that type of thing. So I actually feel like for both guys, it's actually a win-win. Because the reality is this: 15 years from now, 20 years from now, when people go on BoxRec and they look at resumes, very few people actually look at the context of the fight or what led up to the fight happening. So 20 years from now, if Tank does beat Lomachenko, it's not gonna say on BoxRec that he avoided him for all these years and took his time and should have fought him at 130. It's just gonna say he beat Lomachenko, and that looks good on his resume. For Lomachenko, people are just gonna say that if he loses the Tank, he lost to one of the best fighters at the end of his career. So nobody's gonna penalize Lomachenko for that. So I think it's actually kind of like a win-win for both guys. That's how I look at it. But I kind of wish this would have happened years ago. I feel like 2020, 2021, 2019, somewhere around that range. That would have been the ideal time. But look, it's better late than never. It's better they fight than they not fight at all. Because then if they didn't fight, people would say Gervonta Davis is ducked him and never fought him. But at least now you can say that he fought him. So I know that's like an optimistic way of looking at things, and people won't be as optimistic as me, but that's kind of how I see it. And what does it really mean for the division? I mean, I think it means a lot because Lomachenko fought Devin Haney, right? And people thought he beat Devin Haney. I think he beat Devin Haney. So really, truthfully, he should have been the lineal champion of the division. And so technically, if Tank knocks him out or beats him, you can look at Tank as the guy in the division, like the actual guy, not just the ticket seller, not just the guy that puts asses in seats, but like the actual guy. So it's a great fight. You'd have, in my opinion, two of the top 10 to 15 smartest fighters in boxing from an IQ standpoint, especially at southpaws, matching wits. Lomachenko loves to download information, as they say, but Gervonta Davis likes to download information. Lomachenko downloads information and takes his time to study the patterns of his opponents, so he can later on, kind of get that little sidestep and change angles and start shifting on him. And then he wears you down with that mental pressure, and then he eventually beats you to you quit, right? As for with Tank Davis, he downloads information to hit you with that big counter one punch knockout shot. So it's two guys that do similar things, but the way they get their end result is different, and that's why I think the fight's so interesting. I would definitely say, in my opinion, Lomachenko will be the best fighter Gervonta Davis has ever fought in his career, with all due respect to everyone else. So it's still a fantastic fight. Well, what do you guys think? Let's read some comments. Your boy BT, the untouchable, True School Sports Empire. We're here, we're live, back in the flesh for the first time in 3 weeks, for the first time as a Las Vegas resident, you could say. So it's good to be here, and I hope you guys are glad to be here. Let me see. My man Hyro says, and we're not talking about him yet. So that's a problem with you, Hyro. I'm not even talking about him yet, and you wanna go ahead and you wanna get me off track. We're not doing that, Hyro. We're not doing that today. Arab says, bro, why aren't people talking about Baranchik? He is a champion too, even though the fight wasn't good. People aren't talking about Baranchik because Baranchik is clearly the weakest champion at 135, not without a shadow of a doubt. And really and truthfully, like I don't even think he beat Emmanuel Navarrete. I thought it was a draw. It was a horrible fight. So look, I don't hate him. Like, congratulations on him on becoming champion and fulfilling his dream. But like, he's not gonna. I don't think he'll be champion very long. I think Top Rank winds up either doing a fight between him and Raymond Murataya, or a fight between him and Keyshawn Davis. Either way you cut it up and slice it, I think he's gonna lose his belt to one of those two. That's how I feel. Shout out to my man right here. Manny says, the legend in the flesh. Good to see you. MPR says, salute the True School. Good to see you. He says that Tank versus Gervonta Davis is a 50-50 fight. I mean, it could be. It could be. I would disagree with you just because I feel like Lomachenko's age will play a part in that fight. But at the same time, and it's a big if. Like, if Lomachenko could get Tank to the later rounds, I think he'd have a chance to outwork him. I think that'd be his path to victory, to outwork Tank. Because Tank's gonna give up some of the early rounds to pick up on the patterns of the opponent. So I feel like he needs to bank those early rounds, and then he needs to be very, very defensively sound in those middle rounds, and whether the storm that'll come his way inevitably. And then I think when he catches the second win in the back half, that's where he could kind of outwork him, and that would be his path to victory, in my opinion. So they want to know who is in my opinion, who's the biggest threat to Gervonta Davis. There's a lot of good fighters. There's a lot of good fighters around these weight classes. I would say in order, definitely Shakur Stevenson would be number one. I just think that Shakur Stevenson has such an amazing blend of balance and IQ and defense that, I think with fighters like him, with fighters like Shakur Stevenson, who have that kind of understanding of range, when you put a dangerous, like, aggressive, counter-punching knockout artist like Tank, who can knock you out with any hand, any punch, that would make Shakur Stevenson even sharper than usual. Like, however sharp you think you've seen him, however sharp we've seen Shakur in the ring, he'd be even more sharp against Tank. And I think he'd have a good chance to win that fight. And then after him, obviously, I think you have to go with Isaac Cruz. Isaac Cruz, in some people's eyes, beat Gervonta Davis, and he gave him hell. And mind you, Isaac Cruz took that fight on short notice, and so I just think now, Isaac Cruz has gotten better. He's become champion, so now he's been on that level where now he's become champion. His status and his skill level has actually elevated in boxing. He's got a very tight defense. He's a very sneaky, good counter puncher. I would go with those two, Shakur and Isaac Cruz. And then third, I'll probably say, like, on his best night, because with this guy, you don't know which guy's gonna show up, but I would say Teofimo Lopez would have. I think that'd be an interesting fight. I think he could give Tank some problems, just because of the athleticism. But you know, I think if they were to fight, if Tank and Teofimo were to fight, you might actually see a bit more of Tank's boxing skills. You might see Tank move on Teo a little bit that fight, just because Teofimo always struggles with movers. You know. Harold says, wouldn't Tank versus Loma be for the Ring Magazine, and doesn't that make them lineal? No, Harold. The Ring Magazine doesn't make you lineal. The lineal title is not a material thing. The lineal title. Now, normally, generally speaking, when somebody wins the Ring Magazine title, it's because they're the man in the division. But there are instances where you're not the lineal champion if you win Ring Magazine, because the lineal championship is something that you trace back to like the beginning time of boxing. So, Devin Haney versus Lomachenko was for the lineal title, right? Devin got the decision, but then Devin lost to Ryan at 140. Nobody really took the lineal title from Devin at 35. So, it's gonna be I'm not sure. It's hard to follow. But if those two fight, if Tank and Loma fight, it would be for the lineal title, because Devin is not at 35. So once a fighter is no longer in the weight class and you can't win it from him, the best two guys in the division, that's for the lineal title. So like an example, I guess, of that would be an example of this same scenario playing out would be like in the 2000s when Lennox Lewis retired, right? So Lennox Lewis retired. And when Lennox Lewis retired, obviously he was the best guy. He was the man that beat the man. So nobody could beat Lennox Lewis for it. So it wound up being Vladimir Klitschko versus, what was the guy's name? I can't remember his name right now, but he fought like some guy, Ruslan Chagayev. I think that's who it was. I think Vladimir fought Ruslan Chagayev, and that was for the belt, because at the time those were the number one and number two guys. So yeah. Alex wants to know, are the Panthers closing it out, BT? For the sake of my mental health and my mental sanity, they better close it out tonight. I've been waiting 22 years for the Florida Panthers to win the Stanley Cup. They got blown the hell out and humiliated the last game 8-1, and I'm a little concerned. So we'll see. I may be wrong, but I think Tank beats Shakur easily, and Tank already said that he isn't giving Pitbull a rematch. However, I like your boxing knowledge and IQ. Thank you, man. As far as that's not true. Tank will. He said it on Fight Night, but Tank says a lot of things. Fighters are moody. Pitbull Cruz has become a bigger star since they fought. He's champion now. Pitbull Cruz on his own, without Tank or anybody, will bring in 10,000 plus people. So the Tank versus Pitbull Cruz rematch, believe it or not, quiet as kept, is one of the biggest fights that can be made in boxing. If anybody who went to the Tim Tszyu Fundura fight who was there will tell you that Pitbull Cruz brought in the biggest crowd. Once he fought, the crowd was not the same for when Fundura and Tszyu fought. I would say like 15% of the crowd cleared out when Isaac Cruz fought. So he's a very, very big name. He's becoming a very, very big attraction in the sport. And I wouldn't rule out anything. He says, you need a podcast if you don't have one already. If you don't, please consider. What are we doing right now? We're live. It's basically a podcast is just talking in long form. So this is technically a podcast, but I hear you. Eventually, like what I want to do in Vegas is I want to get like an office, like a space, But great things take time. But anyway, that will conclude my Gervonta Davis portion of this live, because this live just isn't going to be about Gervonta Davis. If you got any other comments about Gervonta Davis, leave them down below, super chat them, all that good stuff. I wanted to switch gears and I wanted to talk about Subriel Matias losing to Liam Paro, because really and truthfully, I've seen a lot of buffoonery in boxing media this week, like just absolute buffoonery from not just one person, but like many people in boxing media. Now, I want to establish something really, really clearly here on True School Sports, the home of boxing, all right, on YouTube. Subriel Matias lost to Liam Paro, the dude from Australia, the southpaw from Australia, all right? That's who he lost to. He didn't lose to Devin Haney. He didn't lose to Teofimo Lopez or anyone else that boxing fans and or media want to dick ride. That's the truth. He didn't lose to those guys. He didn't lose to those guys. Those guys that a lot of people in the boxing community like to dick ride, they either did not want to fight him or they tried to fight him at a time when he had an injury and said he couldn't fight, i.e. Teofimo Lopez. So Liam Paro gets the credit for the win. Not Devin, not Tio, not none of them guys. Because they didn't fight him. They didn't step in the ring. You know, Devin was too busy fighting Ryan Garcia, who had all these problems and was drinking, and then he lost to him. And Teofimo Lopez, I love Teofimo Lopez. He's one of my favorite fighters, even though, you know, his dad thinks I hate him, and his dad tried to start something with me at the Broner fight a couple weeks ago. You know, I got nothing against Teofimo Lopez. I like him. He's one of South Florida's very own. God bless him for finally doing what he should have done a long time ago and bringing a fight to South Florida. But if we're being honest, if you look at Matias's last 5 opponents, there's nobody on his there's no fighter out of his last 5 opponents that wouldn't beat Steve Claggett. Steve Claggett is the worst fighter Teofimo Lopez has fought since he's been a contender. So my thing is this. It's easy to talk trash about Super Matias, and fair play. Go ahead. I know a lot of people said he was the boogeyman and this, that, and the third. But fighters who don't get in the ring with the fighter don't get credit for when another fighter beats said fighter. That's not how it works. So we're not going to do that. And I just wanted to get that really, really clear here on True School Sports. Now, it's funny how people like to rewrite history, right? They like to, because I'm going to talk more about Paro in a second, but people like to rewrite history and they like to say, oh, well, nobody was ducking Super Matias, right? Everyone says, I've been getting in my comment section, people are saying nobody was ducking Super Matias. So since people want to play dumb and act stupid, I'm going to have to remind you guys, people were ducking Super Matias. And if you don't believe me, let's go fighter by fighter, all right? We're going to go to screen share for this one, all right? So, example number 1, all right? Fighter number 1 that clearly did not show any sort of ambition to really want to fight Super Matias. Now, he said that he would, but look, so this is one Richardson Hitchens. This is the IBF number 1 contender, mandatory, whatever, right? Hitchens has said on numerous occasions that he didn't want to fight Super Matias for the IBF title because of the fact that the IBF has a rehydration clause where you can't rehydrate more than 10 pounds above the weight class in which you fight in. Because he said that Super Matias is such a huge challenge that he doesn't want to fight him if he's not 100%. And he said this many, many times. And he's the number 1 contender. So I don't care. I mean, I respect him because he was being honest, and I respect how honest he is. But he never asked to be removed from the rankings or lose his position. So my thing is this: we're gonna see. I'm in a way. I'm kind of happy Liam Paro won because we're gonna see if Richard Hitchens was really telling the truth. Because look, now that Paro is the champion, Hitchens can fight Paro. So if Hitchens fights Paro, that means he was lying. If Hitchens fights Liam Paro for the IBF belt, that means he was lying. Really and truthfully, and that he ducked Super Matias. So he better not fight Paro because I'm gonna come out with a video. I'm letting it be known right now. If Richard Hitchens fights Liam Paro for the belt, I'm going to make a video saying he ducked Super Matias because he was saying he did not want to fight for the IBF belt because of the 10-pound rehydration clause. So keep that same energy when Liam Paro has the belt. But he showed a reluctancy to fight for the belt, and he could have been fought for it, right? So that's example number 1, all right? Example number 2, and this one's going to get a lot of people upset, but this is the truth. Oh, no. Hold on. Before we get to Tio, let's get to Devin, all right? And this is probably the worst one out of all of them was Devin, right? And I like Devin, but I'm just saying, this is what happened. You had Bill Haney who got caught lying, and I like Bill, but he got caught lying because Bill Haney was saying that Super Matias declined a $4 million offer. And this is back in December of last year. He declined a $4 million offer. And then Bill winds up saying, hold on, where is it? Let me find it for you. Bill winds up saying that he reached out to Peter Kahn, right, for a fight involving Super Matias. Now I know Peter Kahn very well. I know him personally. I have his phone number on my phone. Okay, I've seen Peter Kahn at the Panthers game before. You know, we frequent the same places in South Florida. I know Peter Kahn. That's my guy. Peter Kahn does not work with Super Matias in any way, shape, or form. I know his whole stable. He doesn't. So for Bill to sit here and say that he got in touch with Peter Conn about a Matias fight, it means that he wasn't even in touch with the right people to get a Matias fight, and that what he was saying was wrong. So exposed, like Bill Haney, but exposed. They did okay. That's another one. Then that's another one. Then I covered this fight. All right. So this was during Super Bowl weekend here in Vegas. You know, it was stated by Super Matias' team that they had accepted the fight with Teofimo Lopez. They had come to a verbal agreement, but they didn't want to fight in February because Matias had a hand injury. They had stated to do it by the end of March or early April. Obviously, Teofimo Lopez didn't want to do that. He had the date for February, and then they went off in the media talking. So, look, these guys were not trying to fight Matias. And look, I ain't the only one who says this. Like, don't just think that, don't just think that it's my Puerto Rican blood talking and I'm being, a fanboy, because I ain't the only one who thinks this. All right. Your boy Keyshawn Davis also feels it's the same way I felt. And here's what he said a while ago about Subra Matias and these guys not wanting to find the business. This the businessman. This is Keyshawn Davis. Here's what he said.
Matias.
Better than Devin, better than Tio. I think he'll beat all of them.
Matias.
Why is that? Break that down. What makes him so terrific, man?
I just feel like he's just a fighter that everybody is staying away from right now. In this era, everybody wants to be undisputed, right?
Yeah.
When the belts is easy to get. When you got guys like him or guys like Tio or whatever, Devin, that have them belts, people is good floating around those belts and just coming up with other big fights. But when it was at 135, when Kambosos had them belts, how many people was calling Kambosos out?
So there you have it. Keyshawn Davis telling y'all the truth. And I like what he said. He said they create big fights. Ryan Garcia versus Devin Haney, really, if you just apart from name value and it being a big money fight, if you're the champion, you should be looking to fight the other champions. And Ryan and Devin decided to take the big money fight with all the hoopla and whatnot. And that's why, like I said many times, you play stupid games, you win stupid prizes. And that's why now he has a loss on his record, and now he has to go through all this stuff to try to get this loss removed from his record. And he's been going through a lot. The Golden Boy not paying him. You play stupid games, you win stupid prizes. Had he fought Matias and unified, guess what? Maybe he would have been like Liam Paro. Because mind you, Liam Paro was Devin Haney's sparring partner. So your sparring partner became champion, but you didn't want to become champion. You didn't want to go try. So it could have been him. Could have unified. And he could have not gone through any of this bullshit with Ryan. But I digress. That's all I wanted to say about Matias. Just boxing fans need to give Liam Paro the credit, because Liam Paro took the fight. Don't give it to Devin, because Devin didn't want to fight Super Matias. Teofimo Lopez did not fight Super Matias. And we'll see what happens. Super Matias, I thought, for most of the fight, did not look like himself. I thought Liam Paro had a great game plan. I thought he was relatively sharp and just he was a fighter I thought he always was. Liam Paro is not he's not great at anything, but he's just well-rounded around the board. He knows he does a lot of things very well, but nothing great, nothing that jumps off the page. And he won a decision. I thought Matias did not look quite like himself. There's been all these rumors coming out now. I've heard people on YouTube say that apparently Matias was partying before the fight in Puerto Rico in the club. So who knows, man? He lost. He wasn't a better man. It wasn't his night. Maybe he gets a chance to win the belt against Paro in a rematch. If not, then there's still good fights out there for him. The fight that the story isn't done, but we're not going to give Devin or Tio or any other fighter credit for something they didn't do. Liam Paro did it. So just wanted to get that established firmly here on True School Sports. Now, as far as Liam Paro, let's talk about him, because really and truthfully, it is all about Liam Paro. Now, a lot of people I've heard say Liam Paro, he didn't look that good. He's not that good. It wasn't the fact that Liam Paro was so good. It was that Matias just wasn't himself. And that's bullshit. At the end of the day, boxing is a results-based business. Nobody cares about what happens in camp or in your personal life leading up to the fight. They only care about what happens under them lights. You know what I'm saying? So he was able to win. And if Matias didn't do his job in camp and being a disciplined professional leading up to the fight, that's his fault. That's his cross to bear. But Liam Paro is the new champion, and there's a whole truckload of options for him. And the question I wanted to pose is, does Liam Paro have like legitimate, real staying power as a champion in the 140 division? And I feel like that's a legit question. Credit to him. But let's talk about it. So right now, this is the title picture at 140. Now he's the IBF champion, right? So you have Devin Haney, his sparring partner, who still holds the WBC belt. He's still the champion. You have Isaac Cruz occupying the WBA. You have Par with the IBF, and you have Teofimo Lopez with the WBO. Now, Teofimo Lopez is fighting Steve Claggett in 11 days from now, next week in South Florida. He should win that fight. If I'll tell you right now, I like Teofimo Lopez a lot, and he's been very inconsistent. But if he loses to Steve Claggett, I'm gonna have a lot to say because he should not be losing to Steve Claggett. I watched some film on Steve Claggett. Top Rank couldn't have picked a more tailor-made opponent for Teofimo Lopez. He has to not just win, but look spectacular. That's why they made this fight. Okay. Assuming that Teofimo Lopez beats Steve Claggett, I think ideally, maybe Tio versus Liam Paro will be a good fight. I think that's the kind of fight he needs to go make because if history tells us anything, right? Tio is not going to go fight Devin Haney. They both want buku money to fight each other. That fight's been built for years. That fight's not happening next, or anytime. I don't think it happens anytime soon. So I think Liam Paro versus Tio is a good fight because Paro is beatable. Tio is the more talented fighter than Paro, but Paro, he can be a mover, and he's a well-rounded fighter. And there are some things in his style that are similar to guys that have given him problems in the past, i.e. Sander Martin, i.e. Jermaine Ortiz, these kind of guys, right? And I think Paro, I think he's better than those guys, honestly. I think he's a better fighter than those guys. But he just has a different style. So I would like that fight. I think Paro versus Teofimo Lopez would be an amazing fight. We know Tio's known in the Australian market, so that could be a good fight. But as far as Paro, look, if he can't get a unification fight next, then if you go down the IBF rankings, you got Regis Prograis sitting there at 4. Now, Regis Prograis was a guy that Liam Paro was supposed to fight last year when Prograis had the WBC title. And it wound up not fighting. Paro pulled out the fight, and that's when Prograis wound up fighting. What's that guy's name? The guy that fought. What's his name? When Prograis fought Danielito Zorrilla stepped in on short notice, right? So that fight was already supposed to have for a title. So this would just be making up for that, Good fight. Prograis is a former champion. He get a chance to become 3-time champion. Southpaw and Southpaw matchup. Prograis is a power punching Southpaw, but Liam Paro has better footwork and is probably more well-rounded. So a winnable fight for both. Good fight. That'd probably be the easiest fight to make for Paro because of the fact that they're both with the zone. You got Hitchens there, but again, Hitchens literally came out and said the whole Matias title reign that he was the number one contender. He pretty much said he can't fight for the IBF belt because of the rehydration clause. So I'm gonna choose to believe Richard Hitchens at his word and just X him out of fighting Liam Paro. Because then if he does, then he's gonna be a liar. So you have that fight. You have Gustavo Lemos, who just saw a Top Rank. That could be an option. Gustavo Lemos very tough. Jose Ramirez, former champion. He's sitting there at 11. So there's some options for Liam Paro. There's some winnable fights for Liam Paro, but yeah, I think he's definitely gonna fight in Australia next. There's no two ways about it. Maybe he fights. I don't know. I'm trying to see who the easiest guy in the IBF is, but whoever the easiest guy is, maybe this guy Mateo. I never heard of this dude at number 8. So you always have that one guy in the rankings you never heard of. So who the hell is Mateo Germain or German, or however you say his name? 24-2 with 9 knockouts. Who did he lose to? He lost to Yuri Up. Oh yeah, okay. So this is the kind of fighter I would expect. If they're gonna do a voluntary defense, someone like this, 8 in the rankings, beatable on paper, not a big puncher. Like this is the kind of guy I would think if they're gonna do a voluntary in Australia, they fight. But who knows? Maybe the fine folks they do a fight at with Regis Prograis, which I think is the more attractive fight, the better fight, the fight they should be looking into. But we'll see. What do you guys think? Do you guys think Liam Paro has staying power at 140? Because I don't think he's gonna get the Isaac Cruz fight. Isaac Cruz with PBC. Maybe he fights Devin. Maybe he draws confidence from something in sparring and fights. I don't know. What do you guys think? about Paro's future. My man right here says Keyshawn Davis is way, way overrated. Think so? He says, you have an old soul, my friend, and I'm in my mid-60s and younger. The podcast you have selected. Yeah, thank you, man. I appreciate you. Shout out to my guy Shinobi. He says, let's go. I just bought front row tickets for the Angelo Leo Venado Lopez fight. That's right. That's right. Shout out to you, man. I'll see you there, Shinobi. I'll be in New Mexico. And you know what? That's the fight. Honestly, if I could just be blunt with you guys, I'm recapping my boxing. When we got Espinoza this week and we got Bam Rodriguez next week, and we're gonna have Crawford in about a month or so. But honestly, if you want the truth, I don't give a fuck about no fight in boxing but Angelo Leo versus Venado Lopez. I can't wait for that fight. It's gonna be a great fight. I think it's gonna be great for the fans. Venado Lopez, fan-friendly style. Angelo Leo, fan-friendly style. Mexican versus Mexican-American in a great fight town like Albuquerque, New Mexico. What more could you want? I think it's gonna be one of the best fights of the year. And obviously, you know who I'm picking. I don't gotta tell y'all who I'm picking. So I hope to see some of you guys. I hope some of you guys that are watching this live from New Mexico and from Cali and from just the West Coast in general. I hope some of you guys make it out to the fight because this is a fight you're not going to want to miss. You don't want to miss this fight. I'm telling you. Star's going to be born that night. Is Pops going to move with you? No, he's not. Pops is not with me. Pops is he's out in North Carolina. So with some family. So he's there and I'm here, and you'll see Pop when you see Pops. It is what it is. You gotta come to Vegas and gotta come where the action is. My man says, who am I picking? Angelo Leo, of course. The better fighter. NPR 76 says, where's Pops at? North Carolina. He's in North Carolina. Let me see. I honestly think Matias losing was for the best. Now these Duckers may actually grow some balls and fight. That's what I hope, That's what I really hope. I mean, the same thing you're saying about Matias is kind of what I'm hoping for my guy, Filip Hrgović. I'm hoping now that these heavyweights that didn't want to fight Hrgović and turn him down for the IBF Eliminator, hoping now that they see them lose and get blooded up and whatnot to Dubois, hopefully they grow a pair and they fight him. That's how I feel. But that's not how it works. That's how it should work, but that's not how it normally works, because if they had something to gain and they didn't want to fight them, when they have nothing to offer, right, as far as like a belt or a mandatory spot, and now they have a loss and it's even less money, come on, they're not fighting them unless they have to. Because that same person they ducked, who was high risk, low reward, they may go ahead and they might just fuck around and turn back the clock and show you why everyone ducked them. Because if that's the case, right, then why? I know he had a surgery, but like when Otabek Komatov comes back, will Otabek Komatov be able to get fights now that he lost to Raymond Ford? Like, we'll see how it goes. My man, the Falling Star says the promised land is near for Florida BT. Yes, it is. The Florida Panthers are about to cement themselves tonight as one of the greatest teams in the history of South Florida sports, one of the greatest teams in the history of hockey. And it'll be the beginning, God willing, it'll be the beginning of the Florida Panthers dynasty. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Matias became a diva with Eddie Hearn, and all the boogeyman talk went away when he left PBC. Eddie Hearn ruins the aura of fighters. You just hate Eddie Hearn, Harold. Just keep a spade. Call a spade a spade. Just say you hate Eddie Hearn. You don't gotta do all that, Harold. You can just say what you really feel. All right, and then the last thing I want to touch on, because there was a card out in the UK this week. I didn't get a chance to watch it live, but I watched it this morning. Chris Smith, he went ahead and he defended his WBO Cruiserweight title, beating Richard Riakporhe, in their rematch, because they fought for the British title in 2019, and Riakporhe won a very close decision. So Chris Smith, I mean, let's talk about him for a second, because I really do feel right now the UK only has 2 champions right now. They only got 2 champions. They got Chris Smith and they got Anthony Kakachi. Everyone else from the UK, like the Furies and the Joshuas and Sonny Edwards, all beltless. So and truth be told, Anthony Kakachi just won his belt from Joe Cordina. So Chris Miller-Smith, not only is he one of Britain's only world champions, he is now the longest reigning world champion from the UK. Because he won the belt when? He won the belt when he beat when he beat Lawrence Okoli. Yeah, that was last year. And he since then defended it twice against two very quality fighters, and Matias Masternak and now Richard Riakpo, who was undefeated. So the talk now becomes for Chris Miller-Smith. What is next? Whom is he going to square off with next? And I think we may have our answer, because Chris Miller-Smith actually showed some screenshots from a conversation he had with the current, WBA Cruiserweight champions, Gilberto Ramirez. And so here's what it said. So this is the exact screenshot. It says it right here. So it says right here, congratulations. Let me deal with my next fight in June, and I'll come over to the USA later for a unification fight. And then Zoro says, let's go. And then Zoro said, congrats on your win. Let me know when you're ready to unify, brother. I'm ready. And then Chris Miller said, thank you. See you soon, champ. So there you go. So you have a potential UK versus Mexico unification fight in the cruiserweight division, which is very rare, because generally speaking, the cruiserweight division is a division that's ruled by Europeans, British fighters, and fighters from random countries. Zoldo Ramirez is the first Mexican cruiserweight champion in boxing history, and we know that as of the last 4 or 5 years, 7 years, however long it's been, the Mexicans have been getting the better of this matchup, and I really do think this fight between Zoldo and Chris Miller-Smith, it's a really good fight. I think Chris Miller-Smith is not flashy at all, but he's a very crafty fighter. I mean, if you look at this fight with Richard Riakporhe, when he was able to actually not be tied up with Riakporhe, because Richard Riakporhe, I'm very disappointed in his performance. He was very just underwhelming, because Richard Riakporhe has one of the best straight right hands in the whole division, and quite possibly in boxing. But Richard Riakporhe, anytime he closed the gap on Chris Miller-Smith, whether he was getting punched at or initiating his offense, just doing way too much holding. And I feel like he really cheated himself in the fight, because he could have really knocked out Miller-Smith. He could have really hurt him, and he had enough firepower to do it, but it was just too few and far between for him. But Chris Miller-Smith is a very crafty counterpuncher. He landed some really sneaky good body shots coming off of counters on Riakporhe, and he just systematically wears you down. Miller-Smith ain't the fastest. He ain't the strongest. He's not gonna, be a pay-per-view star, but he just does a lot of things, kind of like Liam Paro. Just does a lot of things very, very well, and he don't fight outside himself. So I think a fight with him and Zotto, these are two guys that like to use their physical strength. I think Zotto, in his last fight against Gula Marion and Joe Smith, he's actually shown, Zoldo Ramirez has shown tremendous boxing skills. I think between Chris Miller-Smith and Gilberto Zoldo Ramirez, I think Chris Miller-Smith will be the more talented of the two fighters. I do. I think he's got more with him than Chris Miller-Smith. But Chris Miller-Smith, his entire boxing career, has made it a habit of beating guys that are more talented than him. I think Richard Riakporhe is more talented than Chris Miller-Smith, but Richard Riakporhe didn't have that dog, didn't have that grit to fight when it came down to it. There's guys that I think that he beat in his career that are more talented than him. And you know what? You got to respect Chris Miller-Smith, because just like Lennox Lewis, just like Gael Estrada, he can make the same claim that those guys can make, which is the fact that every man he's ever fought, in the ring, he's beaten. Like, he avenged the loss to Riakporhe. Riakporhe was the only guy that beat him, and he's avenged the loss. So nobody can say at this moment in time that they ever got one on, they got one over on Chris Miller-Smith. So, that I think he's shown a lot in his career, and I think him and Zoro, I would say I would lean slightly towards Zoro. But to me, that's one of the best fights that can be made in the cruiserweight division. Now, I don't think he's going to fight Jairo Pataya. I know people are probably in the comments right now saying, oh, why don't he fight Jairo Pataya, BT? He's not going to fight Jairo Pataya because Chris Miller-Smith is with Ben Shalom and Boxer. They've shown they've been on a unified front to not fight Chris Benoit-Smith or not fight Gervonta, and pulled out of purse bids with Gervonta. Reactport, his dumbass, he could have fought. I don't want to say his dumbass, but Ben Shalom, they could have fought Opataya. They literally had a purse bid for the fight. Ben Shalom just pulling dudes at a purse bid, left, right, and center. And so, just really foolish business on their part, and I believe it's cost them. It's costed them. So that's not realistic. And then as far as Noel McCallion, the WBC champion, he still has to defend against he has a defense due against Ryan Ruzicki that he was supposed to have. He was supposed to fight that fight a couple weeks ago on the Broner Cobbs undercard, but he pulled out because he got hurt in sparring. So right now, the way I see it, this is the easiest fight to make in the division amongst the champions, and I think it's a great fight, and I think it's probably one of the best UK-Mexico fights that you can make in boxing, honestly, right now at this moment in time. So why not? What do you guys think? For people that watch the Cruiserweight division, what do you guys think about Chris Benoit-Smith versus what's his name? Zoro. That boy Bobovsky, he definitely is. He definitely is. I really enjoyed your live. Be safe out there in Vegas and may peace. But thank you. God bless you, man. Thank you for stopping by. Are you picking Dubois to beat AJ after he put them paws on your guy? You mean his head? You mean when he was leading with his head? Because it was really his head that did more of the work than his actual punches. But people don't want to talk about that because the whole boxing industry is against Filip Hrgović, and the boxing industry doesn't want a Croatian heavyweight champion. So, the media ignored it. Everyone ignored it. It is what it is. He lost, but he'll be back. He'll be champion someday. No, he's not gonna be Anthony Joshua. I'm picking AJ, but I would like to see Daniel Dubois. I like Dubois. I'm a Dubois fan. Please next time have super chat available for those that want to support your live going on quality. But it is available. It's right there. If you just click the little money sign, that's right there, champ. It's right there. BT, it's nice to see your move was already paying dividends by being able to cover the tank fight. Yeah, man. And I haven't gotten approved to cover the Espinoza fight, but I'll be able to cover the press conference and the weigh-in and stuff. So I'll have more content, and maybe we'll see. We'll see if Top Rank stops being funny with me with these credentials. But yeah, it's been great, man. I got some good interviews coming up later on in the week, so it's beautiful, man. I feel like when I'm in Las Vegas, I'm a better person all the way around the board. So it's paying a lot of dividends. MEZBX says Isaac Chamberlain was disappointing. He was, and I'll touch on that real briefly. He fought Jack Massey, a guy that he was supposed to fight about 2 years ago, but then Jack Massey didn't fight him because he wanted to go fight Joseph Parker at heavyweight, and then now he can come back down to cruiserweight. I went back and I watched the fight this morning. I thought Isaac Chamberlain had a lot of very good offensive spurts, but what keeps costing him in a lot of these fights against Chris Benoit-Smith and against Jack Massey is just his positioning. He likes to fight that lead hand down low, but he's not good enough. He's not good enough of a fighter defensively to fight that lead hand low. So he's having a lot of defensive lapses, and it's ruining all the good work he does in the fights. So it is what it is, man. I love Isaac Chamberlain. He's one of my closest friends in boxing. But honestly, maybe it's his third loss. And he lost to Coley, pretty wide. He lost to Chris Benoit-Smith, in a bit more of a competitive fight than Coley, but still lost clearly. And now he's lost this fight in a close fight. And I think honestly, like as much as I hate to say it, like I don't want to admit it, he might be only a British level fighter, unless he makes some like dramatic improvements these next like soon. I can't really see him progressing further than he already has, just because like you look at Isaac Chamberlain, he's not a big puncher. He's not like he's not gonna knock guys out in one punch. I would actually say he's a slightly below average. He has slightly below average knockout power in this weight class, and then now defensively he's not up to par. He's leaving a lot of things to be desired. He's really tough and he's really good at exchanging. That's what it is with him. And he's got a good jab, but it's not like it's not as consistent as it needs to be, because it can be consistent as it needs to be because he's constantly getting hit with straight right hands. So he's got to clean up defensively if he wants to progress past the level he's at now. You know. Yeah, it's right. If you go in the comments, if you look below the comment section, there's a little money sign. If you click it, it'll give you the option of super chat. It's a little money sign. Do you think Better BF can go undisputed? Of course. Listen, man, I'll tell you what I told Christina Ramirez when I had her on here. Arthur Better BF is gonna retire undefeated. He's not losing a fight. That's genuinely how I feel. Maybe I'll be wrong. Maybe hold on a second. Maybe Arthur Better BF will age out and Bivol will just absolutely do a job on him. Maybe that'll be the case. But I can't see that being the case. I just think he's too complete of a fighter. He can box, he can punch, he's extremely physically strong. I mean, he's about as well-rounded as they come in the sport of boxing. So I'm picking him to beat Bivol, and I'm picking him to beat whoever they put in front of him as a light heavyweight, or if he moves to cruiserweight and they want to do a Jai Opetaia fight, I think he'll stop Jai Opetaia. Jai Opetaia is very talented and has great hand speed, but Jai Opetaia showed me against Breedis again that he is a bit of a front runner. Like he gasses out. So I think I don't know who it's gonna be that beats Jai Opetaia, and I like him, and I don't wish bad on the guy, but like I think his day is coming soon, like sooner than you think. It just depends on if they make the fights happen. Like if they make him versus Bivol or Better BF, I'm picking both of them to beat Opetaia, and I like Opetaia, honestly. Like really and truly, I like Jai Opetaia a lot. He's one of my favorite fighters in the sport. Hey, my man right here, my guy Abu. Hit refresh the page and check now. Check now. Shout out to my guy Detroit 313. Good to see you, champ. Hope all is well. Let me see. But yeah, look, guys, I pretty much talked about what I wanted to talk about. We talked about Tank, we talked about Matias, talked some Isaac Chamberlain, talked about Chris Benoit-Smith. I mean, look, this is that part of the live. We're an hour in. I got an hour in already, so we're gonna freestyle it. Ask whatever you want, and I'll do my best to answer it. If you want a super chat, go ahead. I completely forgot before I started this live to hit the monetizing setting on the back end, so I just did it now because my guy wanted to super chat me. But any questions, y'all go ahead and ask. Who in Vegas are you most excited to work with? As far as like what, like interviewing fighters, or like interviewing fighters, or are you talking about channels? Because if you're talking about channels, there's only there's a lot of great channels in the world, but the channel that I'm most excited to work with is the guy that I view, apart from myself, of course, the guy that I view the highest, which is my boy, my main man, the Dundada of boxing media, Sean Zattel. Me and Sean Zattel should have some content for you guys coming in the near future. We've been talking about it, so I'm definitely looking forward to like doing consistent content with my guy Sean Zattel. I saw Sean Porter at the I saw my boy Sean Porter at I think it was the press conference, and we spoke for a little bit. And hold on a second, guys, I had to get my chargers. We spoke for a little bit, and Sean Porter said he wanted me on the podcast in a couple weeks. So those guys, guys that I view very highly, guys that I have a lot of respect for. Obviously, the boxing boys, Danny and them. Those are probably the three that I like the most. I mean, but I don't mind working with anybody. I've been really enjoying collaborating with people on YouTube recently, so it'd be cool to do more of that. But definitely Sean. Devin Haney is going to Top Rank. Eddie Hearn L. Yeah, apparently during this live, because some of you guys have informed me that I guess they went to purse bid, and then I guess now he's fighting Sandor Martin. So that was expected. When you get hit by a Mack truck like that, when you get hit by the Mack truck that was known as Ryan Garcia, left hooks all upside your head, getting just plastered everywhere. Now, granted, Ryan Garcia was on steroids and whatnot, and we know all that, and came in overweight. I hear you, But when you get beat up like that, I always knew he was going to fight Sandor Martin because Top Rank had just signed him. You know, Sandor is a very skillful, awkward boxer, but Sandor Martin is not no puncher. He ain't bringing no thump to the table. So of course that this fight was always going to happen at some point. Falling Star wants to know if the Panthers win the Stanley Cup, will I come to Florida for the parade? Unfortunately, no, I will not go to the parade, but I do have something planned here in Vegas that I'm going to do when they win. I'm gonna have my own parade. Me and my boy Johnny, because Johnny's a big Panthers fan too. My boy Johnny, if you guys know Johnny, he's a Panthers fan too. So we're gonna have our own parade. Val wants to know, what are my thoughts on the current state of the 147-pound division, and he wants to know, from my analysis, who has a likely chance to become undisputed. My current state of the division is that it's as wide open as it's ever been. I think there's some really good young, unique talents. Like I think Brian Norman Jr. You know, he's definitely put a lot of people, including myself, on notice with a good performance against Giovanni Santillan. He's the WBO champion. You got Boots, obviously holding the IBF. He's the best fighter in the division. You got Mario Barrios who's trying to fight Pacquiao. I don't think we'll get an undisputed champion anytime soon because I think Eddie Hearn is going to try to, you know, let Boots get some easy fights against guys in the rankings to build in Philadelphia to build him up into a star. I don't think Boots is going to need to fight as quick as a lot of people like to think. But I would say for me that the three most exciting welterweights in this division, for me, I like Boots. I like Brian Norman Jr. has really got me excited about him, and Jin Sasaki from Japan. Those are the three welterweights I like, and I still like Giovanni Santillan. But I would say, yeah, probably if Boots, if they actually get the fights of Boots will go undisputed. It's just a matter of if they actually go ahead and get the fights for him. Howard says, we know that Alberto Puello won the real WBC belt. Listen, shout out to Alberto Puello. I thought he had a great win against Antoine Russell. And technically, if you want to be technical, like Devin Haney got his ass whooped for the title. Or he got his ass whooped. I can't look at Devin Haney as the 140 champion. Even if he still has the belt, I can't look at him as a champion because he got destroyed. Even if Ryan was on steroids, and even if Ryan, came in overweight, I hear you, but you lost. You still took the fight. You took the extra money and you lost. Shit. You might got a point there, Harold. But shout out to Puello. Puello's gone through some things. He tested positive for steroids. He did his time like a man. Came back, fought an undefeated knockout artist with all 100% knockouts, and beat him. So shout out to Puello. Shout out to Ismael Salas. One of the best trainers in boxing. Guy who has one of the best gyms in the world that I want to go to very soon here in Vegas. He's just good stuff. What are my feelings on the Ryan Garcia drug saga? And the ending to it. There really isn't any ending because they haven't even they haven't had the hearing yet. They haven't had a verdict on what they're going to do yet. But I just think Ryan Garcia, he's all the way out there. He's just out there, man. I thought the whole Caleb Plant thing was it was just Bush League from him. But it is what it is, Ryan Garcia is a Christian, I'm a Christian too, and Ryan Garcia, if he's a Christian and if he's really read his Bible, he'd know that the Bible says, as you reap, you shall sow. If you reap as you sow. So if you're out here going around talking about you putting your, you having sex with people's wives and things like that, it's gonna come back to you. So. It is what it is. But Ryan Garcia, he's Ryan Garcia. He's not going to change. He's addicted to social media and clout and validation. So you're always going to get him being, a bit of a weirdo on social media. That's how it is. Now, as a fighter, I love him as a fighter. I love watching him fight. I've always talked highly of him as a fighter, his talent. I've always told you guys he's one of the most talented fighters I've ever seen in the gym. So, BT, after going to these promotional companies, PBC events feel like actual fight weeks. no comment. I'm not gonna comment on that because I'm not trying to get in trouble about anything. So, because people in boxing get sensitive. So I won't comment on anything. But you can ask me that when I call you, Harold. But look, guys, if there's no more comments, I'm gonna try to stay for like 5 more minutes. If there's no more comments, I'm gonna go ahead and wrap it up. I just wanted to kind of get back in the swing of going live again because I haven't gone live in 3 weeks. This is the first live since the aftermath of Jack Catterall versus Josh Taylor 2. So had to come and break the drought and try to get back into the rhythm. Lance says, heck of a Christian that Ryan Garcia. Look, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Whatever help he needs to get, I hope he gets it because it's just ridiculous. But look, does Tank meet Inoue at 130? I don't think that's far-fetched. People were calling me stupid because I asked Tank about him fighting Inoue because it's a big fight. It's going to generate a lot of money, if they ever do fight. And Inoue did get on record recently and say that when he fought Neri, he only rehydrated to 137 from 126. So I know for a fact Tank don't rehydrate that high. So it's not that it's not as far-fetched as people think. Money talks. Harold wants to know, do I think Florida blows McDavid or is it a competitive game today? I think we beat them 4-2. 4-2. 4-2 when we finally win the Stanley Cup and put the exclamation point on what's been a beautiful season. What are my feelings on Inoue against TJ Doheny? I love that fight. I'm so glad he's not fighting Merjan. Merjan don't deserve the shot, and I'll do a video on that later on. Why is my computer freezing on me? My computer's like freezing on me. Why is my computer freezing on me? All right, guys, look, I'm gonna end the live because the computer's like freezing on me. So I'm gonna end the live. You guys, why don't this end though? Really, that went ahead and froze on me.